Hey there, folks. It's me again, RC Mulhair, and I was going to type out a post-HP Lovecraft Film Festival action report kind of thing as a blog post over on my writing blog at goodreads.com. Please check it out. I will have a link in the doodly-doo. But anyway, but I'm trying to save my typing spoons, as it were, for... Typing spoons? Yes, that's a thing. My typing spoons for revising some stories that I meant to get out before I went to the film festival, but life has been chaotic because of all the road construction going on in front of my house, and... words. Difficult. Also, today was my first day back to work after the film festival and another writing-related event that I went to last night, which was some friends of mine launched their anthology at the Wilmington Memorial Library. So, instead of typing it out, I thought I would give it, talk it out to camera, which would be, to me, a lot more entertaining and a little more, well, not entertaining, but just I'd have more fun with it rather than, how do I word words, and I can just blither about it to my heart's content. But, anyhow, without further ado, so I'm gonna say a few words about each of the films that were shown over the course of 3 days. And there was a lot of awesome stuff. I'm glad my dad talked me into going to this event because it just was a total blast. I met some awesome people, made some new friends, met some old friends that I haven't spoken to since Necronomicon, or at least not spoken to face-to-face, but been chatting online. But anyway, without further ado, okay, so the whole thing was divided up into about 5 blocks of short films with, I think it was 3 feature films, 1 each day, something like that, over the course of the weekend. But anyhow, I got the program in front of me, which, hold on. They set it up to look like a newspaper, the Daily Lurker, which I thought was just absolutely just awesome. It looks like an old-timey newspaper with, hey, why not, But anyway, without further ado, okay, starting off on Friday night, there was Love and Survival in Innsmouth, which was a 2 or 3 minute little cell animation style film. Very concise, but there was a lot packed into it, and it was almost like dating tips for dating a deep one. And it was, just almost like a microfilm, but it was hilarious and disturbing the way any film about dating deep ones should be, Also, the Seven Gables. This was one that I absolutely loved. I mean, it was very nicely done by this young film student from Rockport, Massachusetts, Ben Wickie. Yeah, Ben Wickie. This kid, whoa, I mean, he did it as an homage to sort of the Roger Corman, Vincent Price, Edgar Allan Poe movies of the 1960s, and whoa, it was just... If this kid is doing this work that's this good at this stage in his career, what is he going to be like when he moves on to bigger projects? I mean, this kid has moxie in gallons, I mean, we're talking... I'm thinking, whoa, he's like the Steven Spielberg almost of the Lovecraft fandom. I can't... Wow, just very nicely done. A couple little things that bugged me in the voice acting, but other than that, I mean, it was very well produced. It was very well filmed. There's little when I say little, but this nicely done stop motion and I think like paper cutout style animation. Just whoa. I mean, he really captured the spirit of the classic by Hawthorne, which was among one of Lovecraft's favorite books. And the model of the house just looked like the house in Salem. I mean, I have visited the House of the Seven Gables on more than a few occasions, whether going through it on a tour or just walking by it to admire it. This kid just captured just the details of it. I mean, just all the crazy angles to it, all the little niches and notches, and I mean, there's this one part on the house where there's like this sort of overhang in that, 1600 style of building, house construction that, was very English and was brought over here to Puritan New England at the time. Well, at the time, Puritan New England. And there's like these little finial type things that are at the corners of that one overhang, and he put those finials on this model of the House of the Seven Gables. This kid's attention to detail just blew me away. I mean, I can't wait for that one to come out on, I hope it's on the Best of 2018 DVD from the HPL Film Festival folks, because I want to watch that again. It was just that good, What else? Fragments. Rather a strange, quiet little film. One of those things where doesn't look like there's a lot going on, but if you really pay attention to it, you start picking up these details. It's kind of surreal without being weird. It's almost like hyper-realism, kind of. Not my favorite, but it was interesting, and you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on here, so it held my attention at least. Psychopompos. This was a Czech film. Nice to see. There was an adaptation of a prose poem by Lovecraft. Kind of one of the, not a prose poem, but a narrative poem rather. One that doesn't get a lot of attention, but it was nice to see somebody do a movie version of it because, it's not something that's been done 100 times, and it's nice to see some of the other of his work, get some love, Irreparable. This was one of those films that had me going, oh my gosh, are they going there? Are they going in that direction? Oh my god, they're going in that direction. Ah! To the ending. The ending was one of those things, in the hands of a lesser director, it could have gotten, gruesome and weird, but it was, I think, that much more gruesome and weird because they didn't show the sort of thing that a lot of directors would just go right to at the very end. So your brain is filling in the details, and it's just made your mind scream, running around in circles inside your head. So that was extremely good. Sound from the Deep. Loved that one. I mean, this was like almost like a retelling of At the Mountains of Madness, set in the present time, where we got the problem with the polar ice caps melting. Only this time, it's set in the North Pole, but with a Norwegian geological team looking for oil deposits on the ocean floor in the Arctic Circle, where the ice is melting, and so therefore there's more ocean floor for them to study, and they stumble onto something. I'm not going to go into what the something was, because this was visually arresting, and just all around, just, oh my gosh, what, oh my gosh, because that's something that has crossed my mind, is that At the Mountains of Madness has become, in some ways, kind of more relevant because we have this problem with the ice caps melting, and who knows what the heck is in those ice caps. Maybe not necessarily Shoggoths and things, but, things that should not be unthawed, we'll say. Or just simply, let's not have the ice caps unthaw at all, because I don't want Boston to turn into Venice, amongst other things. I don't want island nations to go under, It's like, this is gonna be almost as bad as Shoggoths, and we only have ourselves to blame for it. So that was the first short block, Friday night. Second one, I think this was Saturday morning. Okay, Occam's Razor. Loved this one. It played almost like a Twilight Zone episode, only, I won't say even stranger, but it was just, and I say Twilight Zone episode affectionately and admiringly because, hey, I grew up watching the Twilight Zone with my mom, so that's one of the many things that's informed me as a writer. So when people go in that direction, yay! I love what you're doing. So that one was, very interesting atmosphere, very, very interesting. It's like, what is going on here? I can say that about a lot of them. Okay, Nyarlathotep. This is a short that I actually had seen on YouTube, but this was the restored version of it. So even better. And such a masterful little film, a very direct adaptation of the short sort of sketch story by Lovecraft, and just, well, I love the silent film look to it, albeit it's not exactly a silent film because there was a narrator reading the actual text by Lovecraft as a voiceover, but nicely done. Love it. Just, you know. Also, I loved the Q&A afterwards with the guy who made it because he kind of got into some of the odd little details about how they were filming that one on, you know, a dental floss budget, never mind a shoestring budget, and, you know, how they were, you know, they needed a crowd of people and they didn't have enough actors to do it, so they had people holding up hats to, you know, fake the extra people in the audience at Nyarlathotep's little soiree, so that was quite interesting. Folk tales. Almost played like an even weirder version of Get Out. This was a Polish-made film, and just that kind of setup, only just even stranger because it wasn't just, okay, you know, weirdos with weirdo science. This was, you know, weird magic taking part in this, you know, some kind of weird eldritch entity that gets involved, so, oh boy, you know. That was exciting. And Nothing Hurt. Loved this one. This was a small World War II set piece. Oh my gosh, it was kind of one of, almost like the lesser of the two evils, you know? You're a British soldier, you know, in the woods in France, and which would you rather get killed by? You know, creepy, elder gods worshipping cultists or Nazis, you know? So, very interestingly done. Love the atmosphere. In some ways, it kind of, dare I say, it reminded me a little bit of Dunkirk, the way, the Christopher Nolan film, the way it was framed, because, okay, you know, Christopher Nolan never showed the Germans in that, and you almost get this feel there, it's like there's this unknown horror that's menacing these poor guys, so kind of in that same vein, and I you know, loved it for that fact. What else? To See You. This one this one was interesting in that it starts out, it's almost like one of those gritty 1970s sort of cinema of realism sort of thing. Or maybe my throat is getting a little dry. And you're wondering, where the heck is this going? You know, what is this? You know, who is this stalker guy? What is he doing? You know, why is he following this woman around? What's going on? And it's one of those stories where the hunter becomes the hunted. And it just, I love where it ended up because it was like, it just kept you guessing what the heck is going to happen here. And very satisfying payoff. Okay, what else? Some of these I think I missed because, you know, various and sundry breaks and things. Echoes in the Ice, I'm not sure I remember that one. I think I probably missed that one. Oh yes, I remember that one. It was sort of, At the Mountains of Madness meets The Thing. I mean, it was a little predictable, but the atmosphere was just gritty and strange and dark and just, whoa. Loved how that was filmed. Music of John Lowe. That one I wasn't sure where that was going to go. It kind of started out, you're thinking it's going to be this music of Eric Zahn sort of thing. And then it turns into this sort of hard-boiled detective thing, and you're wondering, where is this going to go? How are these two aspects going to intersect? Little predictable, but the payoff was interesting, and I loved the acting, particularly since we have one character who, he's not mute, but he just doesn't talk. You know, that's who he is. I mean, he's just, you know, he can talk, he just chooses to be non-verbal for whatever reason, although, I didn't say so much whatever reason, but reason of traumatic past, poor dude. Speaking of Eric Zahn, The Final Nights of Eric Zahn. This was a strange little, sort of, almost like, had like an oil painting look to it. It's almost from Eric Zahn's point of view as opposed to the narrators in the Lovecraft story, so you kind of get a feel for just how desperate poor Zahn is trying his best to, use his music to fight off the darkness. So there was an interesting use of sort of the motif of the dancers from the painting by Henri Matisse, The Dancers, which kind of kept coming into play, and interesting touch, which I liked. I mean, since that is one of my favorite pieces of modern art. Transition of Juan Romero, which is another of Lovecraft's earlier pieces. Doesn't get a lot of coverage. Was great to see this one on the big screen, albeit as a short film. Then again, it's a very short story, but beautifully filmed. Apparently, the lady who directed it, they were fortunate. They got a formerly working mine that's now a historical site. Was happy to have them filming in there, and that just, obviously not a set. This is obviously, a real mine in the earth. So it just lended a grittiness and a, darkness to the whole thing. But it just beautifully filmed, wonderfully done. What else? Just After Midnight, not my favorite, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But there was, I could do disturbing elements, but there's some disturbing elements I'm not going to touch, and we're going to leave it at that. Just don't recommend this one. It's just me. You want to hunt it out, it's a little French film, but I'm warning you, there's some definite that I'm just not cool with, and we're going to leave it at that. Okay, that was all Saturday. These were Sunday's movies. Mayflower kind of reminded me of... Okay, I've never seen all of Ripley Scott's Alien, but I've seen enough clips of it that it's almost like this played almost like as an homage to this, only a little stranger and kind of more minimalist and just interesting. Mr. Memento reminded me a lot of a story by M.R. James. I think it's The Mezzotint, I believe is the title of it. It's, this story with an engraving that keeps changing every time somebody looks at it. So it's like, what is going on here? It's like a haunted image, and very hauntingly done. Lovely set design. One of those movies with no dialogue, but it worked. It was just, just acting and images and just nicely done. Cool Air, the 1999 version. I've heard somewhere that Cool Air is like the most filmed of all of Lovecraft's stories. To my knowledge, I've seen at least 2 other versions. One was the version in Rod Serling's Night Gallery back in the late 60s, early 70s, and then it also was one of the segments in Brian Usner's Necronomicon Book of the Dead, the one which featured the wraparound story with Jeffrey Combs as H.P. Lovecraft. I think there's a few others, but this one, I loved how this was filmed. I mean, again, this is a restored version of it, because apparently you can find it on YouTube in black and white, and I think I saw part of it that way, but for whatever reason didn't finish it. I hate it when that happens. You get interrupted sometimes and you forget to go back to things, but anyway. I don't know why I forgot to go back to that, because that's just hauntingly filmed. It has almost like a old-timey film look to it with that sepia tint for some sections of it. The sections that are out and about, but then the sections that are in Dr. Munoz's apartment are filmed in this sort of bluish tinted, which just makes it feel chillier, which is, it's supposed to feel chillier because, we're talking about the, the dude who, depends on his air conditioning. Otherwise, he's not going to stay on this mortal plane, and we're going to leave it at that. So, love that one. Love this version of it. Okay, and this final film block, this was on Sunday. A Sweet Man. If you love Five Nights at Freddy's, you will love this one. It was just plain weird and messed up, but weird and messed up in a great way. Matter Isle, which was an English-made short stop-motion animation. Very strange, and what intrigued me was it looked like almost the entire film crew on this was comprised entirely of female filmmakers and whatnot. So interesting, strange little film involving some kind of all-female cult on a dystopian island, and weird things are going on. But just wonderfully done. I mean, just very surreal and strange, and just kind of taking advantage of the strangeness that stop motion offers, and just playing with that just to create this totally what the heck atmosphere. Young Liars, which was kind of like elements of Thing on the Doorstep, only trippier and stranger, and just plain, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? Where are they going with? Oh, why? Yikes! Loved it, though. Almost had like a sort of 70s gritty sort of film setup to it. And the last one was The Merciless Beauty, which is an adaptation of the poem La Belle Dame Sans Merci by John Keats. John Keats. I don't remember his first name. I can remember Keats, but I can't remember the first name. Which apparently was apparently one of Lovecraft's favorite poems. I think he cites it in Supernatural Horror and Literature, his essay on what makes supernatural horror supernatural and horrific. Beautifully filmed, just that was the very last of the films that they showed, and it was a very good coda to end on because it was kind of bittersweet, it was beautiful, it was fantastical. I think it was filmed in Ireland or Scotland. Scotland, I believe. But just wow. Haunting is a good way to describe it, and it was a good note for them to leave on, because the very last film, and you want to go off with sort of a parting is such sweet sorrow kind of thing, and it was sweet, and it was sorrowful, and it was just haunting. Best way to describe it. Okay, and we move on to the feature films. Actually, there were 4, that's right. Ugh. I only saw half of one of them because I stopped for a lunch break with a couple of friends, so... Okay, on Friday night there was Housewife, which is a Turkish-made film. Whew! That one, I was walking away from the theater holding the sides of my head because it was just, it was like, as I said to the, one of the folks that helps organize the whole shebang, I said, this is like the Dunnet horror on crystal meth. I mean, it was just strange and gribbly, but very haunting and very deep. Also, it was great to see, Elder Gods cultists that are not the weirdos in the woods, but are sort of, the slick modern, Church of Happyology, only with tentacles. Yeah, this is a hard one for me to recommend, but if you can stomach a lot of really gribbly stuff, it's interestingly done, Okay. They Remain, this was on Saturday afternoon. This was the one I missed half of. Based off of a Laird Barron novella that I know I'd read, but I was trying to place, okay, I know the story, but it's unfamiliar now that I'm seeing it on the big screen. What I saw of it, I thoroughly enjoyed. Very, very haunting, very eerie. They filmed it in the autumn in upstate New York, so you get this beautiful autumn foliage, which just adds to the whole, something is not quite right here. There's a transition going on here that is hard to, pin down quite exactly what exactly is going on here. Also had one of the most haunting dark ambient film scores that I've ever heard. If they ever release that on CD, that is one I'm going to grab, because it's still playing in my head And the last time I had an ambient score do that was the music from the first season of True Detective, which I've used as background noise when I've been writing King and Yellow stories. So, okay, I kind of want this film score so I can use it as background noise when I'm writing something. Not sure what just yet, but yikes. Okay, Cold Skin, which was the feature film they showed on Saturday night. This was great. This was almost a little Shape of Water, a little Shadows of Innsmouth, set on an island with a lighthouse in, I think, somewhere near New Zealand or something. It's somewhere in the southern hemisphere. And almost kind of plays with, you know, are the deep ones really vicious creatures, or are they just not thrilled that we keep messing with territory that they consider theirs? So it's like, who is the monster here? Is it us, or is it them? Is there any way that we can find a truce with them? You know? Can we meet in the middle somehow? So, nice to see the deep ones getting some love and being shown to be, you know, maybe not human, but just people, you know, with their own culture and civilization that needs to be respected by us dumb humans, you know? And last but not least, Necronomicon, The Book of Hell, which was on Sunday afternoon. Filmed by an Argentinian filmmaker, based off of one throwaway line in Lovecraft's short story, The History of the Necronomicon, which mentions a copy of the Necronomicon being stored in the National Library in Buenos Aires. So great to see, you know, a Latin American film director, you know, owning a small piece of Lovecraft, and that, you know, basically tease into his, you know, his world, you know, his country, you know, that little shout out there. So nice to see someone, you know, run with that and create a whole movie about it, you know, just with a completely strange atmosphere. I mean, it kind of, in some ways, it kind of reminded me of the American adaptation of Ringu, where, you know, you have this nonstop rain, cloudiness, gloominess that just adds to the overall weird, what the heck is going on here sort of aspect. Also, it mentioned, what's his name? Jose Luis Borges. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm mangling it, sorry. I don't speak Spanish. But that was enough to get me curious. Okay, it's about time that I read some of his work because, come on, you know, great author whom I should be reading, you know, should be read anyway, but, you know, somebody that I know by name, but I haven't necessarily read much of his work, so, hey, if it gets somebody into reading something, it's doing a good thing, so, all in all, a whole bunch of great, you know, good stuff, some okay stuff, some, you know, maybe just one that I was just totally on, but, you know, a lot of high caliber stuff that I just totally enjoyed and totally got intrigued by, inspired by, you know. That Nyarlathotep film, I think, has finally jogged me out of being stuck on this one Nyarlathotep story that I'd been working on and just kind of shelved because where do I take this thing? So, yeah. When you're a creative person, you find things that feed, you have to find things that feed your mind and feed your creativity, feed your head, you know? Whether it's books, whether it's art, whether it's movies, and this was a banquet of, you know, head food. So hopefully some of these will be available online shortly, if not already. And if you can find them, check them out, because whoa, you know, lots of good stuff. And I deeply appreciate everything that the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival folks do and what they did bringing this to Providence. And, you know, I kicked myself that I didn't go the first time that they were on this side of the country, because normally they're based out of Portland, Oregon, and normally they're hosting it there, but they've made an arrangement with the folks who put on Necronomicon, the convention, the Lovecraft Arts and Sciences folks. They teamed up with them, I think it was back in 2016. You know, first time bringing it to Providence, and apparently they had a blast, which is why they brought it back again this year. So their object is during the off years in between Necronomicons, which they hold in the odd-numbered years. In the even-numbered years, they're going to hold the film festival. And glad I made it this time because, wow, you know, just good stuff. So I'm starting to repeat myself here, so I'm going to sign off here. So anyway, and this is me, R.C. Mulhare, and you folks keep it creepy and keep it eldritch.